Welcome, everybody, to the Lost Art of Conversation. This is a pro wrestling edition. Lost Art of Conversation, man. I want to do this to do my small part in bringing back the Lost Art of Conversation. And what do I mean? I mean, we don't converse anymore, man. All we do is debate. We argue. We pick sides. We demonize the other side and their ideas, their beliefs, their opinions. We see it all over the place, man. We see it in sports shows, ESPN, Stephen A. Smith. Love it. Entertaining sometimes, but that's all we see. All over social media and chats or posts. We see it in politics, of course, man. These guys cannot have, ladies and gentlemen, not just guys, in politics, they cannot have a conversation. They can't get together. They can't talk. It's all debates, even when they're not debating. We see it at the dinner table now. Everybody's on one side or the other, whether it's about politics or society or whatever it is, or sports. And yes, we even see it in the wrestling community. With people like in the internet wrestling community, one of the leaders of that is JD from New York. I love the guy, man. I've listened to him a lot. I think he brings a lot to the table. Very, very knowledgeable about wrestling. He does a good job. But it's a lot of ranting, man. A lot of ranting, a lot of venting, just a little negative energy. And again, I have nothing against him or anybody who does that. They could do their thing. I want to bring something different to the table, man. I want to introduce more listening, engaging with the other side of an argument, embracing differences, just being uncomfortable with other points of views or opinions and still staying in that conversation mode, man. Inclusion instead of exclusion. I want to talk and have others listen and be curious. And me, myself, I want to listen more. I want to become a better listener and stay curious. So let's do it, man. I want to do this and kick it off the right way. Let's have more conversations, not bashing, finger pointing, lecturing, rants, and all that stuff, man. We want to... What we consume, let me just put it this way. What we consume, I find very important now, and I've learned that at a later age in life. And I want to bring some light. I want to bring some fun, some civility, curiosity, learning, growth, and damn it, even more fun and more light. So anyway, before I keep ranting on, with all that said, I'm the J-Dogg. I want to introduce to you my buddy, my good friend, my co-commentary on the Best Damn Universe mode, where we do in WWE 2K. He has a great channel, called Universe Mode. Great stuff he does, man. Check him out. I'll put the link down in the description. He's my buddy, man. JNW Boss, man. How you doing, Boss, man?
You know what it is. I'm doing good. And, yeah, I gotta say I agree on a lot of things that you just mentioned. Yeah, we do always, it's a lot of debate, it's a lot of us versus them, it's a lot of, you are right, you're either right or you're wrong, and there's no in between. People don't like the wonderful word called opinion anymore, and especially that's especially true in professional wrestling, where it's always, and I know we're probably going to get into this at some point, but AEW versus WWE, and even fans who've taken moments of tragedy and moments where we should have came together as a wrestling group and wrestling community and turned it into an us versus them thing. So, you're right. And I'm glad to be here, because we always, talk about a lot of stuff. And, honestly, a lot of probably what you're going to hear is probably stuff that we just talk about just on base, off camera.
Right.
That's how we roll. The moment you told me wanting to do this and said we're going to be wrestling edition, I'm like, all right, cool. Because that's what we talk about a lot of the time. So I'm down. It's natural.
Yeah, you're game, man. If I continue with this for the rest of this, I'm sure you're going to be a regular guest, if that's okay with you. And yeah, man, to be honest, I don't know why we have that in pro wrestling. It's pro wrestling, man. I mean, we love it. We love wrestling, but it's wrestling at the end of the day. It's silly. It's like having division over I don't know, people who like PlayStation versus Xbox, and they get all crazy about it and just stuff like that, and shows or Star Wars or anime. We were talking about that a little bit before, just to hate about stuff that's just art and entertainment. And I get it a little bit more with politics because it involves real life and issues, so sometimes you do got to take a stand on things, but even then we could be having a lot more conversation. So yeah, I just don't understand it with wrestling, man. Like you said, we see that all over the community, and people whether it's guys like Roman Reigns, and we'll get into that in a little bit, guys like Roman Reigns that created so much division, guys like John Cena, and now AEW versus WWE. And if you don't mind, man, I want to get right into it. Let's get right into this. And this is We didn't plan into this before, man. I want this to be conversation, so it's just like, hey, let's just flow with it. But I do have some questions and some topics I do want to cover, but, this is all... I want it to be natural, man. I just want it to flow. I want to just have a good time and talk, man. That's what it's about, and share our opinions and not be scared of anybody calling us, oh, you're stupid for having your opinion or that, and that's,
No, Blake, you trash. You don't know nothing about wrestling. When all this stuff is subjective.
Exactly.
People don't know what the word subjective means anymore. Like, you like something, I may not like it. You may think Roman Reigns still sucks as a heel, and
right,
I have the right to disagree. But you also have the right to disagree with my opinion. The moment you start spinning into personal attacks, that's where you lose me. But either way, let's get into it, man. Get into it.
Absolutely, man. So the first thing I want to see, since we're talking about that, the big thing, and we want to talk, the title of this is WWE/AEW Sports Entertainment versus Pro Wrestling, and I'm questioning that, and that's where I want to start with you. That's been the big debate for a while, even before AEW got started. Guys like the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and New Japan and Ring of Honor, and CM Punk and Daniel Bryan brought some of that to WWE, that pro wrestling versus sports entertainment. And I want to do something, man, because I was looking at this on my phone while I was, before I was getting ready for this, and I was in the bathroom, and I was looking at my phone here, and I wanted to give you some definitions that I see online about sports entertainment and pro wrestling. Can I do that, and then we'll get into it?
You're right ahead.
Cool. So sports entertainment, first thing it says here, and this is Wikipedia, take it for what it is, but sports entertainment is a type of spectacle which presents an ostensibly competitive event using a high level of theatrical flourish and extravagant presentation with the purpose of entertaining an audience. Let me give you another definition. Sports entertainment refers to sports performed for the sake of entertaining an audience rather than for competition among participants. Sports entertainment, the biggest... There's another sports entertainment. The biggest, scripted, here we go, sports entertainment. A scripted and rehearsed spectacle based on and appearing to be a competitive sport, particularly, but not only professional wrestling.
Were those all three definitions?
Now, hold on. Let me give you the pro wrestling one, then we'll get into it.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
Pro wrestling, simple. Pro wrestling is a type of entertainment involving wrestling matches whose progress and outcome are planned in advance, typically between performers and established characters. Another kind of definition, professional wrestling is a form of performance art involving scripted wrestling matches whose progress and outcome are planned in advance. What do you think about that? Let me just ask you that. From those definitions and what you have, you're a big wrestling fan / sports entertainment fan because I know that you watch WWE, you love AEW too, and you watch other types of wrestling whenever you can. And
Shout out to Impact Wrestling real quick.
There you go, you're a big
Very
Impact Wrestling fan as well. But I put WWE, AEW here because they're the two big, companies right now, and AEW is making a big splash. WWE is the monster still and leader in sports entertainment. So, what are your thoughts, man? What is sports entertainment to you, to JNW Boss? What is sports entertainment? What is professional wrestling? What is the damn difference that people are fighting about?
There really isn't.
I want to hear
because
this. They're going to eat you alive for this.
I know. But you can't have one without the other. These over-the-top characters. Yes, I'm going to say over the top because we've seen how some of these... let's use an AEW guy, for example. MJF. I like MJF. Probably one of the best heels going right now.
Right.
Can you admit that MJF toes that line a bit? Like, to the point where, you don't see a normal human being walking around talking how he is. You know what I'm saying? Without severely getting punched in the mouth by anybody he talks to. Am I right? Am I right in saying that?
I don't know. You know what? I can't answer that. I'm going to answer that with a question, boss, because I don't think we're getting to the nitty-gritty of it, and I want this to be, we're going to have these conversations, and we're going to keep it real, man. Sports entertainment versus pro wrestling. You're still saying, you said it's the same thing, but you're saying now that MJF is towing that line. So what line is he towing? What are you talking
Okay,
about?
the line that specifically that I'm towing, again, playing kind of an over-the-top personality. Like, let me elaborate. Here's the point that we're going to make. The general point that we're going to make with MJF was, normally, you wouldn't really see someone walking around saying stuff that MJF is saying without him getting potentially beat up by every single person he says it to.
Right.
Unless
you're in high school, and even then.
Yeah, but like you get my point. So like,
Yeah.
MJF, like, he is going above and beyond to say stuff to get on somebody's nerve, to bother someone, to piss people off. That's his job. That's his job. That's what he's supposed to do. And so, let's talk about sports entertainment in relation to AEW. Are we really going to sit here and act like AEW hasn't had their quote-unquote sports entertainment moments?
But I'm still, of course, the Luchasaurus.
Luchasaurus, yeah.
I mean, and I'm trying to Jungle Boy, but and they love him. They're loved there, but. And that's the thing, and oh man, I'm still trying to get to the bottom. I've never gotten an answer, and I've heard other podcasts, and they talk about sports entertainment versus pro wrestling. JD himself that I mentioned, he's talked about pro wrestling and sports entertainment. I've heard. If anybody knows an episode or something, let me know. But I've never heard anybody really dive into what the hell is exactly the difference. Because you're telling me now that from what you're telling me, it sounds okay. If you're an over-the-top personality, like Hulk Hogan back in the day, and all the personalities had back in the 80s or something like that. That was sports entertainment, I guess. And pro wrestling was more Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes and Harley Race back in NWA back in the day. But is that what it is then? Because if that's what it is, then I'm sorry. We see personalities in New Japan, and we've seen personalities in Big Over the Top and in Ring of Honor, and we see it now in AEW. So is that what you're saying?
So let me try to ask this. I'm going to... If we're trying to figure out what the heck pro wrestling is real quick, and we kind of try to figure out what the heck sports entertainment is. Because to me, recently, I'm being serious. Cause right. That's a good question, but I think we can't answer one without the other. And it's only really until recently we've seen WWE. Well, actually, no, not recently. WWE've always touted themselves as sports entertainment, but to me, it wasn't really until AEW came along that we have this split between pro wrestling and sports entertainment. So I'm really trying to figure out if you can maybe help me figure out what the heck sports entertainment is. And
look, we might not get to the bottom of it in this episode, but because it's like you said, and I agree with what you said at the beginning when you were like, look, you kind of said it real quick, like they're both the same. They're one and kind of the same.
You can't have one without the other.
That's where I'm trying. But you're saying there's one without the other. I'm kind of saying, you know what? I think it's the same. It might be the same thing. It's a different presentation of it, and we could see little differences in it, but it's the same thing. And it said it in the definitions. Pro wrestling is a form of sports entertainment, and in sports entertainment, they consider sports entertainment the big thing in sports entertainment is pro wrestling. The NFL, the NBA, any other sport, boxing, UFC, all that is competition. And they're saying that sports entertainment is something that's presented to you not for competition, but for entertainment and theatrics and stuff like that. So sports entertainment is mostly pro wrestling, and pro wrestling is a form of sports entertainment. So I still don't know the difference, and I think if people want to talk about the differences of AEW or WWE or how WWE presents itself and how independent leagues or New Japan or something like that, maybe we need new words. Maybe we need a new word to label that, or maybe we don't. I don't know. But I'm still confused by the whole sports entertainment versus pro wrestling. And what was I don't think I answered your question, but I think I gave more questions than answers.
It's like I never understood it. To this day, I still don't understand it, because I really feel, you can say you prefer the way AEW presents their product. I'll give you that. Right. You mentioned something about the presentation. Pro wrestling is a different presentation than sports entertainment, and so from that resolve, now we can look at WWE and think, maybe the limited move sets, given that everything is so tagline. Everything is so tagline. When you think of the cock and the bitch, you think of Roman Reigns doing his thing. Everything is so tagline to a particular wrestler or whatever. Or
Let me take a.
Whatever. Go ahead.
Can I take a crack at it? I'm gonna take a crack at it from what I've heard people complain about WWE about and like about stuff like AEW or Ring of Honor or New Japan or just independent wrestling itself. And what I used to hear back in the day with the NWA versus WWF at the time, Hulk Hogan versus the Ric Flair eras in the 80s. Pro wrestling, what I see people talk about quote-unquote pro wrestling and that they like and that they don't like about sports entertainment, they don't like that sports entertainment feels more scripted, like interviews and promos, that WWE controls that too much. It's promoted in that way, and you have more over-the-top characters. I guess you could still have Luchasauruses and those of the world, but that's not the norm in AEW. And in WWE, it's not that much anymore either. You don't have, like before, where you had guys coming out with a snake, and you had back in the 90s, and you had the dumpster man, and you had all these crazy characters before the Attitude Era came in and got a little more quote unquote real. But I'm still, as I'm talking about, I'm still a little confused of it. But I know that people say that they pro wrestling, when you present a pro wrestling show, you're focused more on the art of it, the art of wrestling, and the art of like telling a story when you're in a promo and not being scripted and being natural, and then in the ring focusing on the wrestling aspect of it, instead of sports entertainment where it's more, I don't know, back in the day, quote unquote cartoonish and more scripted and more kids oriented maybe. That's the only thing I could think about, man, because I don't know. The only thing, look, Raw recently, Raw has not been a very good show. I agree with JD and other people who hate Raw. Like, it's not a good show, but it's not because it's sports entertainment or wrestling. It just, they're not following up with storylines. They don't have long-term booking. They do hot shot booking. They don't build characters up. They don't build up they don't bring up guys from NXT and build them up. Or it was just focused around one or two main top guys. They don't focus on tag team wrestling. Things like that we can get into. We can say, okay, these aren't things that are making the show good. But is it because it's sports entertainment? Because I'm sorry, back in the day, I was a kid, and then growing up too, I was a fan of both WWF, and I enjoyed NWA for what it is, then WCW. I enjoyed it both for what they were. They presented a little bit differently, but I enjoyed them both because they were both compelling.
Exactly. And so, and again, you kind of mentioned promos and stuff, and some of the complaints that people have was like everything feels too scripted and played out and whatever. But don't you kind of need some semblance of that to make a show flow? It's like WWE, they're overly scripted, yes. But don't you kind of need some of that to make the show flow, to have some sense of flow and pacing and stuff to your show? Because I don't think everything that we see in AEW in ring-wise is completely off the cuff. I know, the wrestlers themselves, they may have a little bit more say and leeway with what they do, as they should, because they're professionals. But, different story for a different day. But if we're talking about the scripted nature of things, again, doesn't that kind of boil back to presentation in a way? And that also can also, I guess, tie into how it's run, who's in charge of it. So that's really kind of a management thing as well. So how is something being scripted versus non-scripted, or how, I guess, over the top or something is compared to how serious and straight laced it is? How is that different? I don't know that. I still don't get it a little bit.
I don't know, man. I don't know. And I guess we could get more into I was trying to look for an article here, too. This says, there's an article here on CagesideSeats.com with Low Key explaining how competition is the difference between pro wrestling and sports entertainment. I'm trying to log in, but my phone's not working now. I'm trying to log into it. Maybe I could get it later on. But he talks about something here that's the discrepancy between pro wrestling and sports entertainment. Pro wrestling is hiring pro wrestlers to do entertaining things. So I'm guessing from that, I'm deciphering that he thinks that pro wrestling is presented more as a competition, where sports entertainment is presented as that, just entertaining. It's not competition. But then again, your bottom line, there's 2 dudes in the ring, or 2 women in the ring, or a tag team in the ring, or whatever it is, a triple threat. You have people competing, right? Like, it's still the show. It's still about competition. I watched Raw the other week, and it was Randy Orton versus Bobby Lashley. They were competing for the WWE Championship, if I recall correctly. They weren't out there playing, I don't know, with beach balls, or they weren't out there juggling, and they weren't out there just running around like clowns entertaining you on a little bicycle or something. I mean, well, Riddle was, but and the New Day has done stuff like that too, and I guess that's some of the difference in sports entertainment. But come on, man, you're gonna tell me that you can't see the New Day doing this exact same thing and being way over as well in AEW?
Good point.
Right?
I think that was like Jurassic Express or something. That'd be kind of cool.
Can you imagine that? I think if they take their exact same gimmick, they take their exact same gimmick and they go to AEW, you're going to tell me they're not going to be over. The people will be chanting New Day rocks. I'm sorry.
Right. And some variation to their theme, but yes. Absolutely. So, and we've seen some wrestler go to AEW and kind of do the same thing. I mean, can we kind of look at Miro to Rusev. Yes, Miro's a bit more serious, and yes, Miro's actually being treated like a threat. They ain't good at this.
Yeah, but what is he talking about in every promo?
He's talking about being God's favorite champion, which is well, there we go.
serving God and his wife and
leaving his wife.
Come on, isn't that something that you would see in WWE?
Yes.
So there you go. That's why it's weird to me, man. It's really something so similar that you're just like, well, I like this presentation better. Okay, you like it better because it's like I said, less scripted, or they're focused more on the in-ring competition, and they give the matches a little longer time, or I don't know, they go back and forth. I have no idea. The style of the wrestling is more new school style, maybe mixed with some old school, and not WWE style, which is a little slower. Can we say maybe, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Like style-wise, you look at a match of AEW versus a match of WWE. Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
Right.
And like I said, everything is tagline with certain,
Right.
Yes. Everything is so tagline. They focus on mainly getting to the move that everybody recognizes.
Right.
Look at this out. He can wrestle with the best of them, but we all know in WWE he's slowing it down, working his matches to hit that phenomenal for.
That's a good example. That AJ Styles would be different in AEW, right? He'd still go out there. He'd be the same thing. He'd be a little different because I see him go out there. He seems natural when he's talking, and he's been there a while, and he's such a pro that they let him do whatever kind of what he wants on the mic. But I think the pro. I don't know, man. In AEW, maybe that'd be the difference, that he could expand his moveset or something, or take longer. I don't know. I saw Daniel Bryan and Kenny Omega, which we could talk about that awesome wrestling match, pro wrestling match, and I saw Daniel Bryan. He did kind of the same moves that he did in WWE, and it was actually a little. Right. It was kind of repetitive. Like, he just did a lot of those kicks and chops in the corner a lot. But he did those same kicks while Kenny was on his knees, and he was kicking him and doing the same thing, and it was kind of the same thing. It was a little bit of the same thing. It just, I don't know, maybe they have a little more freedom. You know what I think now? They have more freedom, and I've heard this from the wrestlers themselves, like what I've heard in interviews and stuff I've read. The wrestlers themselves said that they have more creative freedom to do what they want in the ring, instead of being told, well, don't do this move, or cut the match, or you got 5 minutes, or you got 10 minutes, or whatever it is. Like, right.
Band, this, that, and the third. So that's what I'm saying. Kind of go back to presentation, but how does that really? Right. But that's more falling back on the shoulder of what management they're under, and not really on what we're seeing in front. Or not really on what we're seeing in front of us. Because let's look at NXT.
Oh, I was about to mention that, but go ahead, because I was going to say that NXT to me actually was and I don't know now anymore. I haven't watched NXT honestly in a little bit. I just started getting more into wrestling actually lately when the crowds came back. It was very hard for me to watch it during the COVID
I can understand that.
times,
Right,
and just without a fan. I didn't watch it, and I was also going through stuff in my personal life, so I got away from that. But I've been watching wrestling a lot more lately again, and with the crowd back, it's great. I love it. And AEW doing what they're doing, I'm back, man. I'm hooked in wrestling again. But NXT, man, NXT for a while was my favorite promotion, not just mine. A lot of people who were a little bored with WWE and what they did, and I don't know if it's because of sports entertainment or they weren't pro wrestling, but I was just bored with what they were doing. Character development, storytelling, long-term booking, stuff like that didn't make sense. A lot of things didn't logically make sense. No. But you could have a sports entertainment show that makes sense. Call it sports entertainment, pro wrestling, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Can we look at the main event of True?
And anyway, NXT, just to finish my thought, like NXT was to me, I thought NXT was a good combination of quote-unquote pro wrestling and sports entertainment, because they had that aspect of let them go out there, kind of wrestle, do their thing, but it had some direction, it had some storytelling, it had the promos, it had characters, so yeah, to me it was the perfect combination. Triple H, what he did there was awesome with NXT for a while, and I'm sorry that they're killing it or have killed it already.
I don't think they are.
Okay. I haven't watched a lot of it. I'm just going by what I've seen, what I saw during the COVID time where no crowd was there and I wasn't into it. I still enjoy Gargano and Ciampa. I enjoy those guys. I don't know a lot of the other guys, honestly, to tell you the truth there, because I haven't been watching it. So let me know why I should watch NXT and they haven't killed it.
Well, to me, and I'm going solely based off of this new rebranding of it. I don't think they killed it towards the tail end, but because they still. Yeah, they were bringing in new people, but the new people that they brought in, like your Bronson Reed, your Isaiah Swerve, your Eli,
right. I like Swerve.
I'm gonna call him Eli
Swerve.
Drake. He's forever Eli Drake to me. Eli Drake, your camera guy. They're grown, and they were still able to put on that good pro wrestling match that people were looking for, that people liked NXT for in the first place.
Right.
Now about the NXT 2.0, first episode wasn't bad. I actually didn't mind the first episode. I actually was kind of cool with a lot of the newer guys that they brought in, but the problem is I feel like they brought in way too many guys at one time.
Okay.
And to the point where no one stood out fully. I missed the previous episode, so I can't speak yet, but
right.
I'm going to give it a chance. Maybe I'm being a bit too optimistic, and I know somebody's going to say, WWE, you should never be optimistic with them, ever. They're always going to ruin it. Well, everybody was saying that about Bray Wyatt, and look what happened to him.
Most of the time. What?
Everybody was saying that about Bray Wyatt's gimmick initially, and look what they did with it, and look how over he got.
Yeah, but then what did they do with it? And even The Fiend. They killed the Bray Wyatt character, and then they killed the Fiend character as well.
They killed the Fiend?
Yeah.
What killed him?
What was it, at SummerSlam, was it at? What was it when he had... No, WrestleMania? When he lost to Randy Orton, right?
True.
Lost to Randy Orton. Before that, the whole thing with the Hell in a Cell, where he just kicked out of 100 curb stomps, and I don't know, after that, it was just like... I don't know, man. And then just have him losing. I think, who did he lose the title to after that? Wasn't it Braun Strowman or...
Recently?
No, when he was the Fiend, yeah. Before the last time he lost the title. After he won it from Rollins.
To Roman, actually.
He was the Fiend, yeah.
Wait.
No, he wasn't the champion.
Which one? Which reign, the first or the second?
See, that's on behind, man, because I didn't watch it during that time a lot. But his first, who did he lose at his first time? Who did he lose at his first time to? Wasn't it?
Yeah, he lost to Goldberg.
Oh my, there you go. And they didn't kill him, right? They didn't kill. He lost to a monster, lost to a 50-year-old dude.
Did you see how he turned around though? That a fear of him? I don't know, because here's the thing with the Fiend character. I feel WWE stumbled and fumbled their way through it. Did they kill him? No.
Right.
I felt they stumbled and fumbled his way through it. The only I can only think of two straight up clean losses that he had. One was Goldberg, one was Randy. Every other time he lost, it was some shenanigans or some other BS going on. They stumbled and fumbled their way through the Fiend character, because even during moments where it's like, yep, he did, they brought him back and instantly got people talking again. Let's look at Hell in a Cell 2019. No contest inside Hell in a Cell. Okay. But then literally turned around the next month and won. Now, probably you can say, oh, that was a make-do for the crappy Hell in a Cell finish.
Hold on, boss, man. Yeah, hold on. Okay, we're back here, man. Sorry. This is, like I said, we're doing it live. There's no cuts here. I mean, we had to cut here because of some technical difficulties, but we're back. So, you good, boss?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, we were talking about the Fiend, and this is where, going back to the Lost Art of Conversation, man, you can have a conversation and get heated. You could have opinions. You could have that. But there's a difference here. I'm not going to tell you that you're an idiot and you don't know what you're talking about and that you're totally wrong and I'm totally right, because this is, again, subjective. You think that they didn't totally destroy the Fiend. I think that they totally messed up on him, and we could have a conversation about it, and maybe we learn, and maybe we're like, hey, you know what, you're a little bit right, and you know what, you make sense there, or maybe we don't, and that's fine to disagree as well. So I just wanted to give a recap. And also, when I said Lost Art of Conversation, and then I'm not pointing the finger at people who just debate and do Stephen A. Smith or do the JD from New York stuff. That's their thing. If they want to do it, good for them. I just say that I want to bring something different to the table. So just to clear that up, I'm not criticizing any of those people, or if I am, that's my opinion, but I don't think that they shouldn't do what they're doing. They could do what they're doing, and that's cool with me. And I even enjoy some of it myself. I just want to bring something lighter and different to the table. So go ahead, boss man. What were you saying about our boy Bray Wyatt?
The point that I was going to make about the Fiend specifically is that, as I said, WWE kind of fumbled their way through it. They only had them lose like straight up twice. Because the example I'm going to give, and they were always pretty good with rebounding the Fiend with something that left people talking again. So yeah, 2019, you had the no count out stuff with Seth Rollins. Boo. But literally first, literally at the end of the match, they had the Fiend pop up and practically kill Seth, so there was that. And then the next month they had him beat Seth Rollins and become the Universal Champion. And the cool thing, now you can say, oh, that was just a make do for Hell in a Cell. True. Yeah. But the cool thing is they had to hold that title for a while. Good point.
Did he? He had it for a while?
Yeah, he had it for a while. He had it from Crown Jewel to like shoot, what was the other show they did? That's a show now. Oh no, or was it another Crown Jewel show? I can't even remember now.
That was before WrestleMania that he lost it to Goldberg, right?
Yup.
Unbelievable.
Now we can all agree that was stupid. I'm not even gonna halfway defend WWE on that one because that was beyond dumb.
Okay.
But they immediately turned back around. They turned right back around, gave him John Cena. They rewrote the wrong from several years prior and gave us a memorable match and moment with the Fiend in the Firefly Funhouse.
The Firefly Funhouse. That was pretty fun, man. See, can we consider that would be sports entertainment? You know, I guess that's what people would call that, sports entertainment all the way. But it was fun. Just like I think the same show, it was AJ. And again, the circumstances were, I think that was during when there was no audience and stuff like that. So they had to do that. Yeah. And they did the AJ Styles versus Undertaker, which I found fun too. It was like a battle in a horror movie or something, you know? It was fun. Right. It was fun for what it was. It's not pro wrestling, but it was fun. But then again, people would say that Matt Hardy and Broken Matt, or Enlightened Matt, would have Woken Matt when he was in TNA and Impact Wrestling, that was more of a wrestling show, right, instead of sports entertainment. But what he did there and what they did with that, Ultimate Deletion match, that's sports entertainment. That's kind of what they did then with not kind of same, but kind of in the same lines as AJ Styles versus The Undertaker, and that's where the divisiveness is, where you can't even sit down. Hey, you know what? These two things could be a little similar. You like it in your pro wrestling style, but they did it over here in sports entertainment, kind of the same thing. Can we agree? Can I like it over here and like it over there? Is that cool?
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's why, I mean, we may sound like we both don't know what we're talking about, but no, because of the whole debate of what's pro wrestling and what's sports entertainment is so confusing. It's so, you can really apply it to either or.
Right.
You can say you like the presentation of one over the other, but
And I'm open. I'm open to learning the real difference or learning, all the little details of the different, what people think of different. I want to learn. I want to, because I've heard things, but it's just mostly what I hear is criticisms for the way that WWE doesn't do things. And I agree with that because, like, again, I will disagree with you on Bray Wyatt. I think they handled him. There were times they handled him well, even when he was Bray Wyatt. Why did he have to lose to John Cena at WrestleMania? And I'm sorry, that, you know what? That's a big difference that I think is, and I've seen it in AEW, wins and losses matter in quote-unquote pro wrestling. I've heard that argument before. And I can maybe see that because sports entertainment, quote-unquote, you're like, okay, it's entertaining, The Fiend in a Hell in a Cell with Rollins or The Fiend versus John Cena. They're not thinking long-term booking. They're not thinking building somebody up. And they kind of killed Bray Wyatt's momentum. To what? So then he could face John Cena after WrestleMania and beat him in a cage? Does it matter then? Does it matter as much if he beats him at WrestleMania and you build this guy into being a huge star? That long-term booking, that mentality, like, I don't understand. But again, is that a difference between pro wrestling and sports entertainment? Maybe. Nope. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe people like that, the storytelling of pro wrestling, don't treat it like a real sport. Show me competition, get the competition in the ring to me to be more sports-like. But the storylines, we don't want it to be sports. Like, we want it to make sense. We want it to be like a show. We want it to be like we criticize it like a TV sitcom or a movie. Where we want the storyline to make sense.
Right.
If that makes sense, I don't know. And then that's why things like with The Fiend and them dropping the ball with that, or Roman Reigns for a long time. Dude, the crowd is booing him. Why don't you turn him heel? Why don't you go with the flow? You did that back in the day. You did that back in the day, and now they don't. John Cena never turned heel. And I got John Cena a little more because it was more of a mixed reaction, and they went with that. Whatever, that's fine. But, But Roman Reigns clearly should have been a heel years ago.
The moment he beat The Undertaker, came out and did that.
Right.
Or the moment he tried to kill Braun Strowman months later.
Right.
Come on.
Right. I would have done the whole thing. Look, if they aligned him with Paul Heyman now, why not align him back 4 years ago when they faced at WrestleMania? I think it was WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans. Why didn't they just have Paul Heyman betray Brock Lesnar, turn heel, and then they could have put Brock as a face? You could always present Brock as a face because he'll get over. And
this is the first time they're doing that, really.
They could have done that. They could have done that and aligned him, And I think they teased it. I remember they teased it a little bit, and they didn't do it.
They teased? I never remember
They slightly teased it. I think, if I remember correctly, it was Paul Heyman, I think, teased it in some of the promos, or kind of telling Reigns that he kind of was building up Reigns, and it's like, okay, maybe he can, jump the ship, and go with the younger guy, the next guy, and it would have made sense. It would have made sense.
They tried it with Cesaro. It didn't work.
Oh, man.
Oh, my goodness.
Cesaro would benefit from being more in a pro wrestling company, right, boss? To tie this all together.
Yeah. And again, some of it is done with the presentation and management and the third.
So we'll say that, man. It's a presentation, and I guess a presentation of it, and that would make sense, I guess. And maybe some of the things I just came out. I don't know if you agreed with that. It's more that give me that more of a competition feel in the ring, and make it feel more quote unquote real, right? Make it feel a little more real, the fight in the ring, but then have storylines that make sense with long-term booking that you can kind of get behind and and be a part of it, instead of how WWE has dropped the ball. But again, does that mean that we have to label one sports entertainment, pro wrestling? I'm going to go with you, man, from the beginning. I think it's one and the same. Pro wrestling is a form of sports entertainment, bottom line, right? And sports entertainment is pro wrestling. So I don't know what you. No, that's fine. That's fine. I don't know what you. If you just want to finish it out there, and I mean, I don't think we got it nowhere, and that's the thing about. You can have a conversation. It's not a debate. It's not about me beating you or you beating me. We can't get to the bottom of this,
No. And if y'all have anything y'all want to tie into this, or y'all want to
please
drop them. Read them.
Now, do you want to talk? I have here my notes, since we talked about Roman. If you want to talk a little bit about that, care, and I give my opinion of what I thought that they should have done and how they handled it. If you want to add anything onto that, because I had that in my notes, the reinvention of Roman Reigns, because that's been a huge thing in wrestling the last year, and he's already been champion for over a year. Any thoughts on that?
Finally. Oh, and can I say this is the one time Vince McMahon was actually kind of right in seeing something with Roman Reigns there?
What?
I think WWE has something good on their hand for Roman Reigns from the jump. Maybe because I've always been a Roman Reigns fan, and I'll admit that. But even, you want me to tell you what shocked me? I heard a promo that WWE, I think WWE themselves posted it or something, or it's somewhere. But NXT, I think it was like 2012. Roman Reigns just got finished a match and he was cutting a promo. I was watching it and I was listening and my jaw like almost dropped because I'm like, dude, this is pre-Tribal Chief Roman Reigns. Because he was a heel during that time.
Is that the one he was dressed in a suit or something?
Yes.
Yes, I remember that. I remember that.
And the promo that WWE was cutting, I'm like, thinking about it now, like the promo that WWE was cutting back then and thinking about what he's doing right now, I'm like,
right.
That was pre-Tribal Chief Roman Reigns.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, about Roman, I always felt that Roman had something. He did good as that quiet dude in the Shield.
Right.
Then they let him talk,
yeah.
and they gave him way too many stupid lines.
Scripted, man. And too scripted instead of now. You could see it now where he has bullet points. Oh, Lord. What would Booker T say about that? Tell me. He didn't just say that. Oh, man. But
But I found it funny how people put that bad promo line
on him,
on Roman himself. Like he was the one that pitched it. Like, they ain't some creative team that got to come up with this stuff and give it to him. Jesus. And he has to memorize, because I don't know who in the world would have made some of these lines work.
Right.
Which is why I'm sitting there trying to figure out how can you say someone is good or bad as a promo, because some of this stuff that you have to say ain't going to make anyone sound good.
Right.
And
then also when you have him go out there and have to cut a promo against what's going on in the crowd's booing the hell out of him, and he can't acknowledge it because he's supposedly the good guy. So it's kind of silly, you know. And Cena actually did a good job at always playing off of that.
They half-hearted did it with Roman. I don't know if you remember. There was a point in time where he was saying in his promos, "I'm not a good guy. I'm not the bad guy. I'm the guy." I was like, y'all need to stop playing. For real.
Right.
But about Roman, I felt like he's always had it, but like he was just not in the right role to do that. Now that sounds like him. That sounds like him. Yeah, he's, going over the top, the acknowledge me thing and stuff and whatever, but that's cool. Not saying a whole lot.
Right.
But what he is saying is like impactful. You feel that.
Meaningful, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's meaningful. What he's saying is meaningful. He's not, out here, he's not pulling the Triple H talking for 20 minutes.
Right.
But
no, I like it. I like it. They're letting him go, but he's not someone's gonna go out there and cut a long promo like a CM Punk or of John Cena or Shawn Michaels back in the day or Triple H. He's not gonna do that. He's not gonna go out there and be Ric Flair, but he is who he is, and they're allowing him to be who he is. Just again, like The Rock and Stone Cold used to say back in the day, this is who we are, just with the volume turned way up, and so they're turning up that arrogance and that cockiness that he could have. He looks like a cool dude, but you could tell that he, to be in that spot, you got to have a little cockiness in you and stuff. And he's just kicking it up a lot and kicking up that head of the table gimmick and the tribal chief. I love it.
And that trash talk that he does. To me, what sold me on him was that initial trash talk he started doing in the ring.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
It worked.
That's awesome.
Because at the time there was no crowd.
Right.
And I think this was before WWE was even piping in audio.
Right. I think that helped him a lot, man. I think honestly that helped him a lot with not having a crowd. That helped him to get over.
Tremendously.
Right. Right.
You really like, you're gonna take the championship. You're gonna take this woman that comes with it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yes. Can we get more of this?
Yeah.
And we did. And that Clash champion. And to me, that sold me, and the rest was history.
Right. And he's been great in the ring. And you know what? I agree with you, man. From the beginning, I didn't like the Roman Reigns character that they started portraying, or that they didn't go with the crowd. I'm like, dude, this guy needs to like turn heel. I was never against Roman Reigns when he was in the Shield. I thought all three guys were great. I enjoyed all three guys. I was more myself back then a Dean Ambrose fan, and then I started enjoying Seth Rollins in the ring. I said, wow, this guy's the best in-ring performer, in-ring wrestler of all three of them.
I didn't really dig Seth Rollins until we got out of the Shield. That's where I noticed it.
Right. I didn't notice it. Same thing. I didn't notice it when he was in the Shield. I was like, oh, he's a high flyer and he's this, but he didn't stand out. When he got out and he became a heel and he turned on him, and then he started having these great matches, and I'm like, man, this guy's pretty good. I just rewatched yesterday a bit of WrestleMania 31, and he faced that's when he faced Randy Orton in that tremendous RKO that he hit off the curb stomp. That was tremendous. That was a good match, because all I remembered was that moment, but I saw the whole match and I'm like, it's a good match, man. Randy Orton's a great, one of the greatest of all time, and Seth Rollins was in there with him and putting on a show, and I'm like, dude, Seth Rollins, like I say, he's in-ring performer, one of the best of all time as well. He's up there. He's up there with close to a Shawn Michaels and stuff. Does he have maybe the charisma and the thing that Michaels had back in the day? Maybe not, but we're seeing a lot of it now. I like his heel. It's funny, we talk about Reigns, but Rollins has done some great work, recent great work as a heel as well. And I know he's been a heel before, but he's doing some great work. If Roman wasn't the top guy there, Rollins would be the top heel, maybe the champion right now on SmackDown, with his work.
Oh, absolutely. And kind of going back to Reigns, since that's kind of the main thing we were talking about before. Going back to Reigns here, like, his evolution from being the big dog with the Shield's memorabilia attire to now he removed the vest. Thank goodness. Still keeps the pants. Now we got like the Thor Thanos style gauntlet. Now we just elbowing to break all the people.
I don't know what took so long, boss. What took so long for them to take the vest off?
Because WWE got scared.
Oh my God! Changes song. I do, you know me, I do a WWE 2K Universe mode. And for those that don't know what it is, go see it. It's we play video games and we tell stories in the video game and create matches and stuff. And I turned him heel a long time ago. As soon as I started doing that universe, I turned him heel. I changed his attire. I took the vest off. I had him coming like he's coming in now. I aligned him with the Usos. I just called it the Roman Empire. They call it the Bloodline. And, the rest is history. But, dude, it's like, I'm sorry, I was patting myself on the back there a little bit for seeing that. But I'm not the only one. Like, everybody saw, dude, that's what this guy needs to do. Right. And again, I agree with you. To finish my point from earlier, I agree with you. I saw that in Reigns too. I said, man, that's why I was so pissed, because I'm like, this guy could be a huge star if they do what they did with The Rock. The Rock came in, they presented him as this over-the-top baby face. People started booing him. As soon as they did, they turned him heel. And what happened after that? The Rock became The Rock, man. First he was Rocky Johnson or whatever. The Rock became The Rock. After that, they allowed him to just be free and do stuff and be creative, and that's what they're doing with Roman Reigns. And I'm like, damn, but why does it take so damn long? And that's why I guess what we hate about certain, like, quote-unquote sports entertainment, that they scripted this guy so much. If you allowed Roman Reigns to just go, okay, here, be yourself, get out of that Shield attire or whatever, and just, fine, we're not going to give you the scripted thing, go on the mic, and you might say some stupid shit at the beginning, or you might have to get comfortable for a while, but go out there and do it, and do your thing, and be you. Maybe that's what people are talking about pro wrestling. That pro wrestling will allow you to do that. Again, Ric Flair back in the day, the Four Horsemen, Sting, all these people. Didn't seem like they were scripted, man. They were going out there just, living their character and being themselves,
Right. And when it comes to Reigns specifically, why it took them so long, because they got scared, admittedly, I want to say.
Of what?
Or, honestly, I think they, not really, well, yeah, no, they kind of got scared. I'm going to say they got scared of a couple of things. Number one, that people were probably potentially really lose interest because if I believe it was around no. Actually, no. Reword all of that. they finally decided to take a chance because they realized they don't have a crowd. They realized now, since they can manufacture how this crowd responds,
Right.
they're going to take advantage of that.
Wait, but why did they get scared?
now
Rewind. Why did they? Sorry to cut you off, but why did they get scared before?
Upon thinking about it,
Okay.
rewording that whole thing. So
Okay.
scrap that.
Okay.
They finally decided to take a chance because they were in an environment that they
Yes.
could control 100%. AKA,
I agree with that.
the freaking piped in chants and cheers and boos and all that stuff we were hearing.
Right.
So now, since they didn't have to worry about how the fans in attendance were going to react, since that wasn't a thing, they felt risque to do more stuff that they wanted to do.
Yeah.
That's why it was around that time they had Alexa Bliss probably allied with Bray Wyatt and The Fiend and such.
Right.
You know, and that's why, again, they had the Roman heel turn thingamajig. You know, there are probably a couple more examples I could point to, but I can't think of it right. Oh, that's why they probably allowed Dominic to go out there and do his thing.
Right. But why?
You know,
but why be worried about? That's my thing too. Maybe does that fall into the sports entertainment we hate about pro wrestling? Like I feel like, and I'm gonna play that game now. Pro wrestling versus sports entertainment.
Play it.
Pro wrestling will have them react to the crowd. I'll tell you this: AEW, for example, right? The Inner Circle, Chris Jericho, they were heels. As soon as that crowd started, week after week, singing along to Judas, you know, singing along to Chris Jericho's entrance music. What happened? Little by little, they turned him face, right? And then they had MJF turn on him and have his own faction. So then the Inner Circle became faces. And it made sense. People were cheering that. They were cheering Sammy Guevara. They were cheering, Chris Jericho. So you kind of go with it, like, why go with the flow? That's why it's a live show and you have an audience. The audience is not going to dictate everything. You have to have stories and plan something long term, but you have to have that flexibility to go with the crowd. And I've seen WWE do that before, but for some reason it feels even more and more controlled, and that's why people don't like that. And it's like, dude, like go with the flow of it, People wanted to see John Cena turn heel. I don't care if it. I'm gonna go back to that and what I liked. I don't care if they say, yeah, it's a mixed reaction. We want to keep him there. There's no other top babyface. But dude, this guy, the crowd was wanting him to. If he had a heel turn, that crowd would have erupted. And guess what? Then he would have been cheered eventually. Would be the biggest face in wrestling ever.
That's probably what's about to happen to Roman, to tell you the truth.
What do you mean?
That's probably what's about to happen to Roman.
That's what they're already cheering him.
That crowd in Madison Square Garden.
They're popping for him, man. And if you keep the title in him for a while, I hope.
That was
I
the
pray to
biggest
God.
pop I heard Roman have in a long time.
I pray to God, man, that this guy does not
one.
lose the title. I could care less. I would love him to see him keep the title for 3 years. I really don't care. And maybe I'm stretching it, but because now we have.
I was sitting there talking to other one about this. They need to keep that title on Roman until they got someone legit ready.
And they got someone, yes. And maybe that's what it was, man. If they were scared of anything, it was like, oh, we don't. And I've heard this argument before. Oh, when we were building up Roman to be the next guy, to be that next face, to replace John Cena, if we turned him heel, there's no other face out there to go against him. But
are we kind of saying that right now?
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying. If that's the argument, and you did it now, there's nobody out there now. And they're putting guys out there like, hey, Kevin Owens fought him, and he's a face. People are cheering him. You got Cesaro. You got Edge coming back, and people cheering him. So you have all these guys, but you don't have that top guy. Me and you talked about that. They don't have that top guy. I don't see anybody there that can take the title from him and be like, hey, I'm the next guy. We can see guys beat him. Right, I can see Seth Rollins beat him. I can see Kevin Owens be built up and beat him. He had him beat at the Royal Rumble. I can see guys like that maybe beat him. But if you want to build this to what it could be or should be, guys like JD will say should be. I would say I'm going to try to correct that. Could be what it could be. Roman Reigns. Yeah, Roman Reigns could keep the title. It could be something special, kind of like the Undertaker streak, and I'm not saying it's going to be every year, but kind of in that aura thing where it's like, damn, like, Roman's been the champion for 2 years, like, who's going to beat him? And then when somebody beats him, it's a big freaking deal. And hopefully it's someone who they can build up to that, and it's not just like what they did with the Undertaker with Brock Lesnar. Again, booking that, does it makes sense in one way, but it doesn't I don't know. It just doesn't. It didn't excite anybody in that way. It's like, what are you doing, man? Like, it should have been Bray Wyatt. You talk about building Bray Wyatt up. That's where they dropped the ball. Have him undefeated. Haven't beat the Undertaker at WrestleMania. Haven't beat Cena 1 year. Haven't beat the Undertaker at WrestleMania. Or they could have had him beat him in that time. They could have had the Bray Wyatt beat the Undertaker at WrestleMania 30 instead of Brock Lesnar.
Okay, I give it up.
So I'm sorry, going all over the place and going back and forth, but it's the whole booking thing and what people who enjoy pro wrestling get upset about because WWE just doesn't make sense. They react. It seems like they're always reacting to something and short-term booking instead of allowing this show to make sense like we are used to with professional wrestling back in the 80s, back in the 90s, you know? Building up champions. Champions mattered, you know, title changes mattered. All that stuff, you know? Wins and losses mattered, so...
So can I ask why in the world did we do Lashley versus Roman versus Big
There you go. There you go.
An episode of Raw. You're telling me you couldn't have built that up? Also,
and I like. I could segue. A what? A what?
They could have did Big E's cash in better too.
We talked about that, and that exactly that goes. I was going to go to my next point where I was going to say, hey, is AEW competition now for WWE? And just by them reacting to that, because, well, first CM Punk comes back, and they react how? By getting Becky Lynch to come back, getting Brock Lesnar to come back for SummerSlam, and try to make a splash that way.
Right.
Then AEW beats them in the, I forgot it was the 18 to 40-something, 35 demographic, that demographic of men there in that age group. Mm-hmm. They beat him, actually, in the freaking ratings. They beat him in the ratings there for that demographic. So what do? They react to that by saying, well, let's throw out this huge show and have Big E cash the Money in the Bank and then we'll have a triple. Well, first they did that, the cash in, and then boom, then we're going to have this big triple threat at the end of the... And it was so... We saw those two shows, man. We saw Raw. We saw Raw when they did that, and let's take the Usos and Reigns and bring him over to Raw. And we saw how it was, and it felt like, hey, it was something... You want to see that match. You like seeing that match, but again, it doesn't feel like anything. It feels rushed. It feels like it doesn't make sense. And then you fast forward to what they did Wednesday night on AEW Dynamite. They had a great card, you know, in a big stadium. They had a great card, but the card made sense. Those matches were built up. Even Daniel Bryan and Kenny Omega was built up, and they have long-term booking in mind as well. You could see it.
I felt even for the draw, I felt like they shouldn't have did this match here. Or, bare minimum, do it in the main event. I don't know. I felt like they could have, I don't know, maybe full geared that one and then go from there. That's just me.
They could have, but maybe they're riding that momentum too. Like, hey, we got this kicking, we got to do it. And I remember WCW doing back in the day when they had when they first started Nitro, and they had like Lex Luger versus Hulk Hogan on like the second episode of Nitro, and then they had Sting and Macho Man Randy Savage, all these big names. Just let's throw them out there, man. Let's ride this momentum. So I kind of get it why they did it. I would have been fine if they would have waited too. I think that would have been great booking as well. Yeah.
Daniel Bryan on the same line of a Sting, Hogan, or Luger, though.
Nowadays, I mean, Daniel Bryan main evented WrestleMania 30 and had a big win. Did Lex Luger never had that?
Okay. I don't know. I figured they may, again, I'll probably chalk this up to my own, potential fantasy booking here. But I was thinking they were going to do him versus Adam Cole first.
Oh, that would have been good too, man.
That's what they were going to do.
They had that match, yeah. Well, anyway, man, what is... we're talking about AEW now. That is AEW competition now for WWE. Bottom line, are they? Do you feel they are?
They are. Shoot. Dang. Full disclosure, I did not know the question was going to be asked, y'all. Just saying.
A what?
I said, full disclosure, I did not know the question was going to be asked.
Well, so I'm asking. Well, I'll give you time to think, man, and I'll I can rant about stuff. Is AEW competition now for WWE? I still have a hard time thinking that too, because I'm thinking of it. WWE is so huge that when you talk about competition, even if AEW starts beating them, even in the ratings for a while, like WWE is such a financial monster and such a global monster that are they really going to be competition for them now short term? I don't think so. I think to me, and we talked about this off the air. How I compared, and I've talked about NWA versus WWE back in the day. I don't see this as a WCW versus WWE, WWF Monday Night War thing. I don't see that where they're battling back and forth and seeing, and then eventually one company put the other one out of business, and they were really competing against one another. It was fun. I don't see that being this. I see this more in that quote unquote sports entertainment versus pro wrestling, kind of what we had back in the day with the NWA led by Ric Flair, Harley Race, Dusty Rhodes, and then guys like Sting and Lex Luger, the Great Muta, people like that against WWF with the Hulk Hogan's, Macho Man Randy Savage, Brutus Beefcakes, Junkyard Dog, Andre, all these guys, and Jake the Snake. When we had that was before we got into the whole sports entertainment pro wrestling, and we had it when we called that. I remember people talking about it when I was a kid, and I remember being around adults who would talk about that and talk about how, WWE is too cartoonish, and I like wrestling. I like my NWA, man. I like Ric Flair, and
give me
the matches.
NWA, give me my pro wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. Southern, and it was.
Answer to your question.
Okay, go ahead.
Answer to your question is no. I do think AEW have definitely done things to wake the WWE up.
Okay.
As mentioned, given how they reacted to Punk returning.
Right.
And how they reacted to Bryan returning, or Punk and Bryan and Adam Cole all debuting on AEW within the past month. Yeah, that's crazy. That all happened in the same, practically in the same month. That is crazy.
It's a good time to be a wrestling fan now, man. I don't know what we can all rejoice on that and be like, hey, let's enjoy what Roman is doing over there, and let's enjoy Seth Rollins matches and Kevin Owens matches and Cesaro and all these guys that are, they have some great wrestling on SmackDown. Let's enjoy that, and let's also enjoy AEW, man.
Yeah, and so what I was gonna say was, AEW have definitely kind of woken WWE up in some sense, and this to me kind of goes along that line of WWE needs to really stop treating their wrestlers like pawns, like interchangeable pawns here, because they can easily leave and go to a company like AEW or anywhere else and make their name at your expense.
Right.
So they might want to chill out with that, because they're about to mess around, and they will probably mess around and lose some major players if they keep that up. I mean, you've been hearing the stuff with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
Sami Zayn
is coming up within the past next couple of years. Though.
I have. So let me pick up from there, boss, because I was to tell you that it's not competition, and you say they're not competition. I haven't said they are that. I think, like I told you, worldwide and financially in the conglomerate, whatever the WWE is, I don't see AEW becoming that yet. It could take. No. It's going to take a long time.
It'll take a minute.
But are they competition? I think they are in a way. They're competition as a wrestling show, and creatively they are competition. Because if they weren't, why would McMahon be worried? Why would they make these moves and counter them if they don't think that they could be a form of competition? Maybe they're not now, but they're scared that they are on their way to be competition.
That's the point that I was making.
Right, and I'll go...
which is why I mentioned WWE need to quit playing around with their...
pawning guys and not building them up and not giving them that platform and not building up other guys. Like, build up other guys, man. I love what they're doing with Roman, but build everybody else up on that on his level or close to his level. Do it back in the day. Remember, we had Kurt Angle, Undertaker, Triple H, Rock, Shawn Michaels, all those guys at the same time, Jericho, Big Show, all those guys were kind of on the same level. Mankind, Mick Foley. There was a time when you had all those guys. Yeah.
Fast forward to my era. The SmackDown
Please.
6.
Go ahead. Kurt Angle.
Edge, Kurt, Benoit, Ray, Eddie, Chavo.
And then you had Cena, you had Batista, you had Randy Orton, you had all those guys on the same level.
Brock, right?
Brock, yes.
Benjamin and Haas, even if you want to include them.
Yes.
Even though, dang, Benjamin should have did more.
Okay, so we're talking. This is a good segue, man. We're talking about all this talent, and you talked about Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Imagine them joining AEW. Look at the lineup there, man. Let's say they go over there. You got Kevin Owens.
Return to a Ring of Honor.
Yeah, there you go. But you talk about Kevin Owens. You talk about Sami Zayn. The guys. You talk about them not having play. I mean, look at the roster in WWE and then tell me this roster here. The guys that have already jumped ship to AEW. Chris Jericho, multi-time world champion, a freaking legend in WWE, right? Hall of Famer, first undisputed champion. You have Moxley, who was Dean Ambrose. He was a former world champion too, 1/3 of the Shield, who was maybe the greatest faction in WWE. Daniel Bryan, you said he's not up there with the Hulk Hogan and stuff like that, but Daniel Bryan, multiple-time champion.
He star.
One of the most popular wrestlers of this generation, the Yes Movement. He main evented WrestleMania. If he would have been healthy, maybe he would have main evented another couple of WrestleManias. He was a world champion in another WrestleMania against Kofi Kingston.
World champion at some point.
Right? CM Punk, an icon. An icon, man. A former multiple-time world champion. His iconic pipe bomb moment. He wrestled The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Longest world championship streak in a long time. Who else, man? Adam Cole, longest reigning NXT champion. Right? He was NXT. We talked about it with the Undisputed Era. The guy in NXT leaves. Aleister Black, who's Malachi Black now. Pac, tremendous wrestler. Cody Rhodes, who's one of the big... I mean, they really dropped the ball with Cody Rhodes, man. Cody Rhodes was... I thought back in the day when he was when he won no, he didn't win Money in the Bank. He was feuding with Sandow, I think, because they had that Damian Sandow. They had that feud in WrestleMania. I remember he won that match, and they teased that he was going to go after the world title. It made sense. That world title was part of like the NWA WCW heritage. That world title, the big gold belt. That made sense for someone like Cody Rhodes with his heritage with Dusty Rhodes to have that belt and make it mean something. And they dropped the ball with Cody Rhodes at the moment. Then, I didn't talk about the revival. Andrade Cien Almas, Andrade, Ty Dillinger, who's, what's his name now? I always forget his name now. Sean Spears. I mean, and then they have young guys like MJF, who's at the top of the card now, and this guy's young as hell. Hangman Page.
Darby Allin.
The Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and then all those guys, and I'm not mentioning Kenny Omega, who's one of the top, if not the top wrestler in the world for a long time. So tell me that they're not, and then run me the roster of WWE, and who do you have besides Roman Reigns? You have great wrestlers like Seth Rollins. You still have Edge. We don't know how long he's going to go for, but who do you have to match this lineup, man? And if guys keep leaving, you get Kevin Owens, you get Sami Zayn, you get Bray Wyatt showing up on there, maybe Braun Strowman, people like that. Like, come on, man.
I think Braun's actually going to be signing with Impact.
Right, I've heard that. Yeah. But can you imagine that? And like you said, if they fool around and they keep losing guys, let's say Cesaro's contract runs. I don't know when it does. Cesaro goes over there. Cesaro will be a big hit there. You know, you start getting guys
but
like that.
AEW, you might want to. It's going to get to a point, whether we like it or not, where AEW is going to end up being the bad guys here and having to release people. So.
Well, I mean, I would rather have that problem than not have a loaded roster than not having enough. And I mean, they got guys that they don't even need to build up. You don't. The list that I just ran and the people they have, you don't need to build them up, man. They're already built up. You go out there and you create storylines and you give matches and dream matches and you know, and that's it. And that's it, man.
The AEW got 2.0.
The what?
2.0, right? Daniel Garcia, and I still can't remember the other two guys' names, I'm sorry. But AEW 2.0, like, they've brought them in a match with Kingston, Moxley, and
Right. Oh, right. I know you're talking about. Yeah. I don't remember the name either.
They moved them on to a feud with Darby and Sting.
Right.
They made a Bennett against Moxley. Like...
But that's what they're doing, and they listen. They listen to the crowd, man. Look, Darby Allin, small dude, man. I enjoy his gimmick. He's his own guy. I like that. I respect that. And in the ring, he's it scares you.
In the ring, this dude scares him. That dude was going to kill him.
Look, man, but in the ring, he's great. He's great in the ring, you know, where he does, and he can get around there. It's like and someone like that in WWE, you think they would have put him in there with the CM Punk, and CM Punk was on that level. But they did that. They listened to the crowd. He's over. So go with it. And they do that. They went with it. And it's like, oh man, like if they keep listening to the crowd, if they keep doing that, man, and they keep giving us good matches at that, and they get some compelling storylines. Now they have a lot of groups that they could go with, and I mean they could go so many places with Daniel Bryan and Kenny Omega and CM Punk just at the top of the card, and you throw in a Jericho and MJF, man. You imagine MJF feud with CM Punk.
That's who I thought he was going to feud with next, but then again, I remember he lost to Jericho. If he would have beat Jericho, that would have been the next guy I saw him feuding with.
Right. And that it's just man, and that talk about wins, man. Like he beat Jericho like 4 times, or was it 3 or 4 times before Jericho actually beat him, and they made it like, hey, these wins matter. And Jericho's like, man, I need to win this match. If not, I'm out of here. I'm quitting wrestling, and it just mattered. Look, and then Daniel Bryan comes in. He gets a match with Kenny Omega, but it's not a world title match.
Nope.
It's not Brock Lesnar coming back and just boom, here you go, world title. Here, this guy. Daniel Bryan has the credentials to go in there and challenge for the world title, but they didn't do it. CM Punk has the credentials to step in there and demand, hey, you know what? First night, I don't want to face this guy Darby Allin. I want to face Kenny Omega the first night.
Give me Kenny.
Give me Kenny the first night, And it's like, dude, I feel like they're doing things the right way. They're presenting it in a way where people are responding to it. Wrestling fans, I don't care if it's pro wrestling, sport, wrestling fans and us that love wrestling are loving what they're doing. And a lot of people have been already like kind of, unless you're a quote unquote casual fan, and I'm sorry for labeling people, but if you are casual fans, will come by and be like, oh, WWE, great pay-per-view, or I like this match, and I like Roman Reigns, oh, he's cool, and Brock is cool. Right, fine. I'm talking about real like wrestling fans who enjoy it.
Can we stop that?
Stop what?
Can we stop with this treatment of casual fans? I mean, you just brought that up, but it's like, just made me think, can we just stop with that? Seriously.
Why?
Because let me tell you why. Because sometimes...
There's nothing wrong with being a casual fan. I'm sorry, there's nothing wrong with being... I'm not saying it's wrong.
No, I know that. I'm talking about the people who use that term casual fan as an insult.
Right. That we need to stop. Yes, I agree.
We stop that.
I agree.
At one point in time, you may have been a casual wrestling fan at some point. You didn't grow up in there. Some of us did not grow up with the internet in our face, knowing all these insider terms.
Right. When I was 10, 11, you're right. When I was 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, I was a casual fan. I mean, I became a hardcore. I guess a hardcore fan is because I followed it. When you become a fan of something or hardcore fan of something, means that you kind of live it, you follow it a lot, you're more invested in it. That's the only thing I see. I'm a more invested wrestling. I'm a more invested wrestling fans as opposed to other people who are casual fans. And yeah, let's not label that as a casual is casual. You're a casual fan, means you watch it occasionally or you watch it for big shows or whatever it is. And that's it.
Yeah,
and that's not wrong with that.
And I've also seen people downplay somebody's opinion just because they're a casual wrestling fan. Like,
no wrong with that. They could have it. That's fine. I could disagree with them, but they could have it. They could have it.
Let them have it. And also let them have their kayfabe fun, too. Because I've seen people talking in kayfabe.
Do it, man. Do it.
I've seen people talking in kayfabe in conversations.
Right.
And they go and I've seen people go hey, fake, right? Wow, this kid obviously don't know scripted. Let them have fun, they go. You're not sitting there talking about a movie. You're not,
Right.
Whatever. Let them have fun. Hey, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I love it, man. And that's what this is about, man. Hey, let's have that conversation, and let's have any conversation, an uncomfortable topic. And it's like, that is, to me, it's an issue because it's like, man, we're not, you can label. I have problems with a lot of labels too, but I've understood and come to understand sometimes labels are needed, or we can use a label, but it's the intent that we use it, the intention that we use it with, and what's behind it. If I'm going to say casual fan to be derogatory, or I'm going to use sports entertainment to be derogatory, then I'm already creating that divide that will not allow people to listen and will not allow for a fun conversation or us, to learn from each other, whatever it is, and
I can give you a perfect example. Buddy of mine always liked wrestling to some capacity. Always liked wrestling, but initially, when they were, he admitted got back into it due to CM Punk stuff.
Right.
And he was trying to get into it, and really kind of wanted to get into it, but he didn't because of how the fan base was. So he had some opinions online, and fan base was trashing him, and he kind of fell out of wrestling.
Right.
Fell out of it. Right. Whatever. I'm not going to deal with the fan base. I'm over it. But now, it's like every time I talk to him, he's talking about AEW, and I got him hooked on Impact Wrestling.
There you go. So. But see, but it's the same thing, man. Look, and I've been called myself, I consider myself a hardcore pro wrestling fan, and I'll be talking to me. I started watching when I was 10 years old. I've seen every wrestling. I used to love ECW, WCW, WWE. I've watched some Japan stuff, not as much as I would want to. If I had more time, I'd watch more Japan stuff as well. I enjoy it. I've even watched some Lucha Libre from Mexico. My mom was a big fan of that. I used to watch it with her. Funny enough, man, my mom and my grandmother, when they came here from Cuba, they used to watch it a lot. They used to watch a lot of Lucha Libre, Mexican wrestling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They were big fans of that, yeah. I remember my mom telling me when I started watching wrestling she told me that story. And anyway, man, but what you were saying, and to me, they've called me. I've had people who I've gone to events or people that I've known, friends and stuff that I've known that love wrestling too. But they were like they were. I remember this one guy. He was a hardcore ECW fan back in the day. Then now he was, of course, a Ring of Honor fan and New Japan fan and stuff like that. And anytime, even NXT, they loved NXT. But they would even say, oh, NXT is a little too WWE-ish for me, or NXT is a little too sports entertainment for me. And I used to laugh, and they used to tell me like, oh, you're just a WWE mark. And I'm like, really? So I can't like WWE and what they present and love the spectacle and watch the quote-unquote sports entertainment and watch WrestleMania and enjoy it and still criticize stuff that I don't like, but also enjoy going to an NXT show, also enjoy watching a Ring of Honor match or watching New Japan and enjoy these guys and enjoy what they do, but enjoy also what WWE does, you know? And I could criticize, like they had no criticism for Ring of Honor or any of those wrestling shows. They just criticized WWE, but I'm like, wait a minute. I don't like sometimes like quote unquote, what are they've called them? Spot monkeys, like the Young Bucks and that. And it's like that term that Jim Cornette and other people use to, because they hate the independent wrestling. But I get it. Like I get why people like it. Yeah, I get why people like it, but I sometimes don't like it because it's too much and it feels too quote unquote fake at times because you're just jumping up and back. It looks kind of like a old school, like Lucha Libre, where it's just a back and forth, man. You're just boo 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 back and forth jumping around and none of the moves mean nothing at the end. I enjoy more of the storytelling in the ring. Again, that's me. And WWE does do that. They do tell a story in the ring, or they try to. So to me, what I'm saying is, man, I'm with you. Like, if you're gonna label people, like, stop labeling them, man. We all like wrestling, whether we're casual, whether we're that. If anybody's watching it, let them watch it, let them enjoy it. It's better for the art or sport or whatever you want to call it, up professional wrestling, for more people to watch. We need more casuals. Have the casuals come in. There's room for casuals. There's room for traditional, quote unquote, traditional wrestling fans, old NWA people. You know,
your favorite wrestlers.
Yeah, and cheer for your favorite wrestler to do that. It's like, oh man, why so much? Why is all these things a dirty word? Oh, sports entertainment, casual fans. You know what it reminds me a little bit of? And I'll leave this one alone, man, and I'll let you finish off so we can get off of this before we keep ranting. I really like the conversation, and maybe we can pick up after another episode. But it reminds me of, like, I remember when I grew up, I started getting into like rock music, right? I started getting more into like rock music and stuff like that, and that crowd, it was like, oh, we're out of this box, and we're not poppy, and we hate this pop music, we hate these boy bands and all these other people, and it's like, and they criticize them, but with the hatred, with the venom. And I'm like, dude, at the end of the day, it's music. If people enjoy that, let them enjoy it. I used to enjoy some of their songs. I can enjoy pop music, I can enjoy romantic songs, and I can also enjoy rock, and I can enjoy all different types of music, jazz and classical.
You can also enjoy a Crit Danger track of all of me.
With that, I'm done.
Continue.
No, with that, I'm done. But just that, man, and that goes into my whole, again, to finish up with the lost art of conversation I'm trying to do here. And with wrestling, it's fun, but there's other serious topics that we could talk about, and that people just too much tribal mentality and just thinking in this dogmatic way and thinking in like picking sides, and it's so silly when we see it in something like wrestling or something like music. Oh my God, but that's not real music, and da da da. And I'm like, come on, man, come on. I had a music teacher. I took music, but not because I was playing any instrument. I took like a history of music class or something like that, and I did my paper on Elvis Presley, and this guy hated Elvis. Oh, Elvis wasn't a true musician. He was just a crooner, like Frank Sinatra and this. And it's like, oh my God, like, just the hate of all this thing. Just enjoy music and allow other people to enjoy what they enjoy. You can have your opinion. You can say that I don't like Elvis because I don't like how he sings. I like, they needed, his voice wasn't great. I didn't enjoy the spectacle that he was. I prefer a more humble musician, and this. You could have that opinion, but why demonize that side so much? What if people love that? Let them love it. Let them love it. That's it. That's all I'm saying, man. Let people live, bro. Jeez.
Absolutely.
And that's my rant. I'll talk about JD ranting, and I'm here freaking ranting, but
Pot me kettle. But yeah, you do. Yeah, you like people.
But I'm trying to bring it from a different side. If that was my thing, I want to bring it from a different side. And I'm not. Again, I'm not. If those people want to do that, go ahead and do it. I just don't see the productiveness in that. I see it's a lot lighter, and you bring a lot more lightness and fun and inclusion, and that's what I'm about. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry if that comes across that I'm passionate and they want to paint me in the same picture as a JD or something like that. Fine. But I think the intent, again, my intent is inclusion. My intent is listening. My intent is bringing more people into the room instead of pushing people out. And to me, that's a good thing. So.
Right. And so at the end of the day, you can like what you like. You can enjoy what you enjoy. If you're a fan of WWE, that's fine. If you're a fan of AEW, that's fine. If you're a casual fan,
That's
or
fine.
a hardcore fan, or most importantly, if you're a fan of sports entertainment or professional wrestling, like what you like.
And we will finish it with that. Thank you, Boss Man, for joining me today. And I'm sure we'll talk many of these pretty soon. Let's get into some other topics here in the wonderful and crazy world of professional wrestling. Again, this is the J-Dogg. Thank you, JNW Boss Man. This has been the first episode of the Lost Art of Conversation Pro Wrestling Edition. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you.